Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. This is, of course, the All Talk Sports Show. I'm RJ. That one right there. There he is. There we go. That's Sean right there. And you know what? Thank you guys for watching. I would appreciate it. Please like our videos. Subscribe to our channel. Comment if you feel so inclined. If you disagree with us, comment. If you agree with us, comment. If you want to hear us say something that we didn't, comment. We just love to hear from you. And also just want to say thank you so much again for watching this first season. We're sure to come up with some very exciting improvements for season number 2 as uh, as we will have a fun football season next year. Um, that being said, let's recap uh, the last NFL season. One game left, the only game that mattered. The Buccaneers beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Sean, go ahead.
Well, not the game we thought it was going to be. Both teams came out trying to run the ball. Both teams were 3 and out. I thought both teams came out a little conservative. But the Bucks defense just looked sharper. They were getting after Mahomes. I was said all along that this season that Mahomes was just like if he didn't make one magic play a game, they could lose. You know, and you saw teams all year long trying to get that pressure on him. And even when teams did get pressure on him, he just rolled away from it or shrugged him off or ran for 20 or found the guy open down the field. And so you start to buy into the fact that this guy, it doesn't matter. He's just going to do it every game, you know? Doesn't matter what kind of pressure you put on him. He's going to make that magic play. And so I even started to buy into the fact that this guy's just going to do it game in and game out. And last week we talked about the Bucks defense, what they could do to stop them. I think we both agreed they had to keep those middle linebackers in and just get pressure with 4. They got pressure with 4. They got a lot of pressure with 4.
Easy.
They actually got the Mahomes.
Easy.
And I kind of mentioned it in passing last week that the Chiefs defense was kind of banged up. Or I'm sorry, the Chiefs offensive line was banged up.
Yeah.
Again, I'd bought into the fact that it doesn't matter. Mahomes he's gonna spin out of it. He's gonna make the right decision. The Chiefs are gonna have the right play called, and it doesn't matter. But it really mattered that the offensive line. I think both starting guards were out.
Yeah.
That mattered. It really played a big part in that game. The only thing I really got right in that game was the fact that Tampa Bay was scored 31 points. They scored 31 points. So Tampa Bay's offense did pretty much what I thought they were. Kansas City's offense, though, wow. No touchdowns, 3 field goals. I predicted 35-31 Kansas City. Wow, was I off? It was just a continuous pressure, and you just get so numb to the fact that Kansas City always has the right play called. Mahomes is just going to make the right decision, or if he does, he's just going to spin out of it and run for 20. That didn't happen. I got to hand it to Todd Bowles. He learned from their first matchup what to do, and he got it right, man. He was dialing up. He called a perfect game, and their linebackers, Devontae. Well, they're two linebackers, Devontae David, I want to say, and the other fella. I mean, they just were playing lights out. I mean, yeah, David White and Devontae David. The 2 combined for 18 total tackles. 2 tackles for a loss, 3 passes defended. I mean, they were just in his face all day long, and that's the story of the game right there.
Yeah. I talked this with my uncle Mike, your father-in-law. Um, and he loves to say that I'm not giving Tampa Bay any credit. So I'll start out by saying Tampa Bay did good. Tampa Bay played a good game, and that definitely played a part in how this game turned out. So that's definitely true. I never once said that Tampa Bay didn't play a good game. They did play a good game. But now, the Kansas City did not play well. Period. That's just, I mean, that's just plain and simple. And whether Uncle Mike wants to say it or not to my face, that's not all Tampa Bay's fault. Kansas City just did not play well. Period. Patrick Mahomes had the potential to play well, but the Kansas City offensive line couldn't block at all. They played terrible. Travis Kelsey, I counted like 3 or 4 drop passes that he could have easily caught. Tyreek Hill dropped a couple passes. Robinson dropped a couple passes. The
Yeah,
receivers weren't catching either, and so I mean they weren't playing well. And then all of a sudden, our defense just, I mean, obvious penalties. I mean, they were obvious penalties. I mean, I think they were calling a little tight, but even if they were calling a little tight, they were obvious penalties that should have been called. And it's like, you know, this is not Kansas City. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know where the real Kansas City was. I don't know if they were, they were out on the beach they were at a Super Bowl party watching the Super Bowl, but Patrick Mahomes was really the only guy that showed up to play. And so once again, Tampa Bay played well. Their defense really stepped up. Good job, Tampa Bay's defense. But gosh, I mean, story of the game is Kansas City played horrible. And I honestly think if Kansas City would have played like they played all year long, that it would have been a different story. I I don't I, so that's my look on it. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but
there's a couple of things I agree with. There were a lot of drop passes. And believe me, I'm a Pittsburgh fan, so I know about drop passes. There were a couple in the end zone. Hill dropped one in the end zone. I think Williams dropped one in the end zone. Um, I I was thinking all playoffs that the refs weren't calling pass interference. They were letting them play. I did feel like they were calling a lot more tighter in the Super Bowl, which is which pisses me off on one hand. Just be consistent. I was okay with them letting them play in the playoffs as long as it was consistent. Both teams, and game in and game out. And get to the Super Bowl, you're expecting the calls to be consistent with the playoffs, and there were a couple of phantom calls in there. There were. Only thing I would push back on you about is they're the champions. They should have been ready for the game.
hmm.
Just uh, you know. So I feel like if you get to the Super Bowl and you start dropping passes, there's really no excuse for it.
Oh,
And I
I
do
agree.
agree with you that on the Chiefs' best day and the Bucks' best day, Chiefs probably win that game. So, yeah, but I do feel like the Bucks just got the pressure with 4, and that was the biggest thing. They could hang back and try and take away some of the weapons downfield and give 4 guys a chance to get to them and make them feel uncomfortable, and they did.
I think we're saying the same thing. I agree. There is no excuse for playing that bad in the Super Bowl. There's no excuse. Not for a team like Kansas City. Now, when the Rams made the Super Bowl and played that bad a few years ago, there's a re there. I mean that's being the Rams is excuse enough to play that bad in the Super Bowl. But for the Kansas City Chiefs, the the 2020 Kansas City Chiefs, who are arguably one of the most stacked teams you'll find out there,
Yeah.
that is absolutely unexcusable. And it's their faults. And it, as much as it hurts me to say this, shame on you, Kansas City. You know, I'm not leaving or anything, but um, I mean that is just a horrible performance from Kansas City. Just absolutely horrible. Well,
Yeah, I wish it would have been a better game.
well, as quickly as I can stop talking about that game as
Yeah,
possible.
I hear you. I feel you.
So, so my absolute dream job in the history of ever would be to be a general manager of a professional sports team. And I thought since we'll do maybe this show and we might have one more show next week. Next week might be our last show for the season. I'm thinking I thought it'd be fun. We don't have any more football to talk about, and there's not really much trading. There's not really much signing going on right now. So let's not dive full into it, but it'd be fun to kind of be a general manager for a little bit. And so Sean and I took the official 2021. Well, it's not official yet, but the projected salary cap for 2021, $180 million, and we made a stacked starting 22 or 24, I guess, with the kicker and punter. Um, we made our, I guess, sort of fantasy lineups with the $180 million salary cap. Um, now, um, I I never want, like I said, I've always wanted to be a general manager and never once thought it was an easy thing to do. But when you sit down and do this yourself, it's like, holy
Yeah,
cow! And we only did the starters. We didn't have
right.
to worry about
Yeah.
bench and all that stuff too, and
Hmm.
practice squad and all that. So it
I
and
have a
so
newfound respect for general managers.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I encourage everybody to do this, not only because it's fun, and I mean it makes you think and it makes you start to strategize where you wanna spend your money. So that being said, do you want to go position by position, or do you want to just list
Sure.
your team first and then my team?
Let's go position by position, back and forth.
Okay, all right. So let's start with I don't know. I think offense is the most fun, so let's start with defense.
Hmm. Okay. All right.
Let's start with the defensive line. I want you to go first.
Are you playing a 4-3 or a 3-4?
I played a 4-3.
Okay. I went with 3-4.
Okay. All right. So
You want me to start?
yeah, go ahead and start. Yeah.
All right. Um, so I went with the 3-4. Now you, you guys are gonna think I'm a homer, but I went to it, Stephen Tuitt from Pittsburgh
Hmm.
on the outside. Uh, also Cameron Hayward
Hmm.
from the Pittsburgh Steelers. They both combined for 15 million. I thought that was a pretty good deal. And then Nick Bosa.
Yeah. There you go.
He was hurt a lot last year, but he's a monster, and he's only coming in at 8.3. So I felt like that's pretty good offensive or defensive line there. And,
Wow. Yeah. So I went 4-3. I spent more money than what I should have on my defensive line, but oh well. Okay, so my defensive I have two defensive ends, obviously. My first one getting paid $7.5 million. former Cowboy Emmanuel Ogba from the Miami Dolphins. I really miss him. I wish he would have stayed in Kansas City. That was just a dream come true. But yeah, he's getting paid 7.5 million. And then my other defensive end from Houston, J.J. Watt. Took J.J. Watt $17.5 million. And then I had two tackles. One of my tackles, Saunders from Kansas City, Kalen Saunders from Kansas City. Uh, he's only getting paid $1 million, a little over $1 million. So that one kind of helped a little bit. But then my other defensive tackle, I just had to take Darnold. I just had to take Darnold. I just had to.
I hear you. It was tempting, man, to not have that guy on your team, but
It's
man,
pretty hard
there's
to
only so many
spend
dollars.
27,892,000 on Aaron Darnold, but to have a line of J.J. Watt, Aaron Darnold, Saunders, and Emmanuel Ogba, I, I think that's pretty salty, and that might be worth the money. So
All right. Outside linebacker.
okay,
I'm going again. I went with the 3-4, so I have two outside linebackers. A steal. I mean, I think he's one of the top couple outside linebackers in the league. And again, he's a stealer. T.J. Watt.
mm-hmm.
And you got him for $2.3 million. That's a steal. The guy's a monster. He's gonna, he's a MVP caliber type of player. And again, another steal on outside. You got to remember the Steelers led the league in sacks,
Yep.
so there's a reason. And he's he's only getting paid $3.5 million, so it's a bargain. You're getting some sack guys. So that's what I went with on my outside.
Who was the second one?
Devin Bush. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So I went 4-3. So I also have two outside linebackers, but just one middle linebacker. One of my outside linebackers, I took T.J. Watt. I did. Yep. I just had to, because like you said, that's a
Yeah.
bargain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my other outside linebacker, Chase Young.
I had him on my list, yeah, but I had to squeak a couple dollars in there. He was getting like 8.5 or something.
7.8 is what I got, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then my middle linebacker, he really, his popularity has decreased the last couple years. He was really more popular a few years ago, but I took Eric Kendricks from Minnesota, making almost 12.5 million. But T.J. Watt, Chase Young, and Eric Kendricks as my linebackers. I think that's a pretty salty linebacking core.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So with my 3-4, I have two inside linebackers. Hot off his Super Bowl win, I went with Devontae White, Tampa Bay, and then Roquan Smith, or Quan Smith, probably butchering that name, from Chicago. He's getting 3.5. I like him. So
yeah, I spent a lot of money on my defense, and and my
I did
offensive
too.
line.
Yeah,
My offensive line's hurting because of it, but oh well.
my original budget for my defense came in at 100, and I was like, oh no, I got to cut some off that.
It doesn't help that I spent almost $50 million on my defensive line. Yeah. All right, so
Yeah, I spent yeah, and I ended up spending 70 on my defense. But so now we're to do what, cornerbacks?
yeah, let's go with corners. Yeah.
All right, so this is where I splurged a bit. I went with Jalen Ramsey for 20. And then I thought as a good compliment on the side, Joe Hayden from the Steelers.
Yeah.
He's still a good lockdown cornerback, and he's coming in at 7.3. So I went with that.
So I spent money everywhere on my defense. I It's just crazy. So one of my corners, I took Denzel Ward from Cleveland, making almost
Mm.
9.5 million. Um, so there's that. But then, actually, this I think he is my lowest paid player. Oh no, he's not. My punter's not paid anything. Um, but my other corner, former Cowboy Trey Flowers from Seattle.
I took a look at him. Yeah.
Mhm. And I loved him when he played for Oklahoma State, and the fact that he's not making even $1 million, I I had to bite.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I didn't see that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
now
that's good. That's a bargain right there.
yeah, I had to take him. So now on to and plus my my defensive line and my linebackers are so strong that I felt like and I got some good safeties, so I felt like I could afford to not pay too much for that. But now we'll move on to safeties, our final positions on the defense. I'll go ahead and go. I took Jabril Peppers from the Giants. Uh, you know, he's not too bad. I mean, he plays for the Giants, and yeah, the Giants defense is struggling, but 6.7 million, and he puts up solid numbers even though his team doesn't his team doesn't show it. And then
No.
and then lastly, from Seattle, I took Jamal Adams. I had to.
Why you didn't go with your boy Matthews, huh?
No, he was. I, I think he'd
After what
get
you spent on your defensive line.
exactly. Yeah, I couldn't. I couldn't do that. I could not afford him. So yeah.
Well, I did go with Matthews at 14,
There you go. Hmm.
and I love my safeties. And then I went with Mika Fitzpatrick, making 4. He's been in the year 3 years, Pro Bowl selection every year. The guy's a ball hawk. I love those two safeties, man. So yeah, Fitzpatrick from the Steelers, Matthews from Kansas.
Yeah. Well, something.
So,
I definitely would have taken Matthew if I had money, but uh,
yeah,
I figured I'd spent
I
enough
feel
on my defense.
I feel like I got some pretty good linebackers for some pretty good bargain price there. So
Yeah, I took T.J. Watt too, so I was kind of.
yeah.
So now, once again, offense is the most fun, so we'll save it for last. Who's your punter and kicker?
So I had $7 million left after offense and defense. So I was just fitting these guys in. Who would I go? Oh, you know what? Again, again, this was I was going to go with a different field goal kicker. I was going to go do Tucker from Baltimore. He was a little pricey and everything came in. So I had to go down a few million, go down to Boswell from the Steelers.
Hmm.
Solid kicker, 4 million. And then for my punter, again, this was it's strictly a number based decision. Britton Colquitt from Minnesota.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, I I built. I tried thinking about looking at my offense, and I'm in my mind I'm going, this offense is not going to need to punt the ball very much. So I decided to just, I mean, a very low salary, less than, I mean, eight eight and a half $850,000 salary for the punter from Cleveland, Jamie Gillen. Uh, just I just didn't think I was going to be punting very often, so I just decided not to spend money on it.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I just had some money left over, and I was like, well, I was filling the blanks here. But
And
yeah, you can
then
get great field goal kickers and punters for ridiculously low numbers. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and then field goal. I mean, there were some that made a lot of money, but I had to go with Butker from Kansas City. I just had to. He's solid. He's solid. 3 for 3 in the Super Bowl. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. The moment of truth. Offense. Let's go with. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start on the offensive line?
Sure, we can work our way up to quarterback. Absolutely.
There you go. You go first.
All right. At center, he's a perennial Pro Bowler, and he's a Steeler. Believe me, the rest of the offense is no Steelers except for the offensive line. Marquise Pouncey,
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh Steelers center. He's the best in the business. 6.5 million. At left tackle, I really wanted to go with Tunsil, but he's like ridiculously 22 million, and I had to reel that back a bit. So at left tackle, I went Taylor Wan. Um, see, right tackle, I went with Joel Battaniano. He's from Cleveland, but they had real good running games, and he was part of it. At the other guard, DeCastro from the Steelers. He's another Pro Bowler. And at the other guard, Yonda from Baltimore.
Mhm.
They had a real good running game as well. So tried to look at the real good running games and tried to pick from those.
So, how I treated my offensive line, which I really wish I didn't, but oh well, is I had two guys in mind that I really wanted. So I picked those guys. And then the last three guys on my offensive line were literally the last three guys that I picked on my whole team. Um, which I probably shouldn't have done that way, but I did. So I really wanted Pouncey from Pittsburgh, so I got Pouncey at center. And then I really wanted Eric Fisher, left tackle from Kansas City. So I took Eric Fisher. And then I did the whole rest of my team, and I come back and I have 3, 4, 5, 6, like $7 million in cap for my other three on the offensive line. So my offensive line's kind of struggling a bit. My right tackle is Josh Jones from Arizona. My right guard Cesar Ruiz from New Orleans, and my left guard is Zach Fulton from
Are
uh,
you there? Okay.
so yeah, I mean my offensive line's not too great, but I have Pouncey and I have
Can't
a
skip on that offensive line.
yeah, but I have a pretty
I,
solid. I have a very solid left tackle in Eric Fisher, and with a right-handed quarterback, and I have a center. I have a really good center in Pouncey, so
yeah.
I feel like it'll work just fine.
All right then. So tight end then.
Okay.
Uh, I had a few jotted down. Hooper from Cleveland, Kelsey from Kansas City, Gronkowski. All pretty reasonable. Kelsey's a little pricey, but he's worth it if you can fit him in the cap. uh, Eventually, Ertz from Philadelphia, 8.5 Pro Bowler. I felt like that was a solid choice.
Yeah, that is a solid choice. Um, I started my tight end was the very first person I picked, and I was like, I mean, come on, you have to spend money. I mean, you just have to. You're given $180 million. Just spend money on places, and so I took Travis Kelsey.
Yeah.
Almost
They-
13 and a half, but that's all right.
yeah. I mean, no shame in that. I had him on my list, but yeah.
He was the first person I did. I was like, if I don't get anybody else that I want, I need Travis Kelce. So that's that. All right. Wide receivers. This one was tough for me, but wide receivers. Go ahead.
It was it was tough. I when I I tried to pare down my selections. I was going towards beasts at wide receiver like Metcalf, Brown for Tennessee, Claypool for Pittsburgh. So, and then I wanted a speed guy. I spent money at wide receiver on Tyreek Hill at 18 million. He can stretch the field. And then I eventually decided on AJ Brown getting 1.5 million for Tennessee. That guy's just got superstar written all over him.
Mhm.
And then Claypool for the Steelers, 1.6. He's a beast as well. So I like two beasts and a guy that can stretch the field.
So, I really wanted Tyreek Hill, former Cowboy, Kansas City Chief, but at when it came down to it, I found some speed um, without him, which I not as fast as him, obviously, but so I also took AJ Brown from Tennessee. I did bite on Metcalf from Seattle. I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last, I have three receivers, some speed on this one, and I hated to pick a Sooner, but I took Hollywood Brown from Baltimore.
Okay, all right.
Uh,
Wow,
Making
that's spicy. Okay.
almost 3.5 million, and like I said, he's not quite Tyreek Hill, but he's pretty close. So
Yeah.
I was happy with getting Hollywood. All right, the last two, the moment of truth.
Well, did you go with fullback and running back?
I didn't because I went
No.
three receivers. So
Yeah, I went three receivers, but then okay. All right. Oh, I had a little extra space then. All right, so right to the running back then.
12 men on the field, Sean. That's a
Yeah,
that's a penalty. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
So this was another one where I was like, you have to spend money somewhere and might as well spend it on a running back. So I went with Derrick Henry. Yeah, 13.5 mil. I just had to.
I did too. I had a Alvin Kamara from New Orleans, Devin Cook, Minnesota.
Hmm.
Nick Chubb was real tempting at 1.8. He was real, but yeah, I went with Henry as well at 12.5.
I kid you not. On my piece of paper, I had Nick Chubb. I had Nick Chubb written down, and I was like, "Come on,
Yeah, that.
spend some money." So
Yeah,
because and I actually did that because I thought I was going to go after a quarterback that was pretty pricey, but I got a good deal on my quarterback. So I'm
I think I did too. I think it's probably going to be the same guy.
oh great,
Who'd you go with? Okay, drum roll. Who'd you go with quarterback?
Josh Allen.
Yep. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I saw like at first, I hadn't even written his name down at first. Mayfield, Mahomes was 45. Brady, I knew Brady was going to be doable at 25. David Carr at 25. Watson 33. That was wishful thinking. But then I came across, I was like, what the hell? Where's Allen? And I had to scroll down. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, there he is. 5
Exactly.
million.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I will take Josh Allen.
Yeah. And yeah, I was, and that's I almost went with Nick Chubb because I was like, man, I'm gonna have to pay $20 million to get a good quarterback.
Right.
I'm gonna really have to spend money on it. And then I was really wanting to see. I honestly I was honestly gonna get Aaron Rodgers. I was honestly just gonna go with Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers was on my list.
And then I
33. Yeah.
and then I honestly wasn't even looking at quarterbacks anymore. I was just like, how much are the Steelers paying
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph? And so I start scrolling down and see Josh Allen at 7 million. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, okay, hold on.
It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. I was like, yes, please. Thank you.
hmm
I would take.
But yeah, I feel like that was one of my few steals. Getting Josh Allen at
Yeah.
7 million is a steal. He's a beast.
On the offense. Yeah.
I think,
On offense, is definitely. Yeah.
I think, I think he's a Super Bowl. I think not yet. I think he will be a Super Bowl quarterback for I think multiple times, maybe multiple times. He might lead Buffalo to a couple Super Bowls. Might not win them, but I think he might a couple times. Towards the
I
end
think
of his career.
Buffalo's Buffalo can be back in the AFC Championship game next year. There's no reason
Yeah.
why they can't. They need a solid running game. They give them a solid running game, and there's no telling what that offense can
They
do.
they only they can only get better. All you have to do is draft well and keep the guys you have now and draft well. That's really all you have to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
That's all. Mhm. Man, and I tell you, it's really fun. I I do this sort of stuff all the time with the guy that used to do the basketball show with me back when I was doing the basketball show, and I really love doing this stuff. Um, Sean and I had an absolute blast with this, and so I encourage you guys to do it. In fact, you know what would be cool since nobody comments, and I'm just fishing for a reason for you guys to comment. Why don't you guys make up? Why don't you guys make up your starters? 180 million in cap space. You get 180 million. I use sportsrack.com. I that really doesn't matter, I guess, but just that we're getting the same information or the same salaries or whatever, because somewhere sometimes online can be kind of fishy if you look on
Yeah.
Wikipedia or whatever. So
Mm-hmm. Real quick, we've never talked about this in private or on the air, and I feel strongly about this subject. How do you feel about fantasy football?
all right. So if you are an owner um, or a creator of any sort of fantasy football outlet or whatever, I'm really sorry. But I am so ticked off with fantasy football. Okay, here's the deal. I love fantasy football. My fantasy basketball teams are really good. I love that fantasy sports stuff. I for many years played. Um, and then there was a span of 3 years. There was a span of 3 years where my every year my what I do my first round pick is a quarterback every year. I splurge and get a really good quarterback every year. That's my my first round pick is always a quarterback. So a few years ago, I went and took Tom Brady as my starting quarterback. And that was the year Tom Brady got hurt and couldn't play anymore. So I was like, crap. Okay.
Oh, that's lovely.
So that was just that was a waste of time, a waste of a pick. So I was like, all right, well, next season. Next season hops around. I need to I'm gonna get a different quarterback, because Tom Brady got injured last year. I went with mm, I went with Russell Wilson, who the very next year missed more than half the season because of I don't know if it was injury or just rest time, but I think it was injury. Missed more than half the season. Um, but once again, I wasted my first round pick. I was like, whatever, fantasy football. Then third year, third year rolls around. I'm like, all right, completely new, completely, just not even think about those last two. Don't think about Tom Brady. Don't think about Russell Wilson. I had I had two guys on my mind. I was either going to pick Aaron Rodgers, or I was going to pick Drew Brees. I go with Drew Brees. Guess what happens that very year I picked Drew Brees? He legit was
I'm,
out from week 3 for the rest of the year. He was literally out for the rest of the year. And so that was 3 years in a row that my first round quarterback, all star quarter, or not all star, but Pro Bowl quality quarterback got injured and didn't play all year. And it wasn't Russell Wilson, it was Cam Newton. I'm sorry. It wasn't Russell. It was Cam Newton that got injured. So, but either way, so that really, really turned me off on fantasy football.
well, I feel I hate fantasy football, and let me
I
rant
do
for a
too.
minute.
I do too.
I hate it for slightly different reason. Um, if there's one thing you got to know about me and sports, I have one sports team in every sports, like one team. Like there's no second favorite, there's no third favorite. You know, NFL, it's the Steelers. I'm very passionate about the Steelers. I love my Steelers. I hate every other team. I hate them in varying degrees, but I hate all other teams. So my
I'm the
problem with
same
fantasy
way.
football is it forces you to root for players and teams that you hate. I hate everyone. And I played 1 year. I want to say it was the year after the Steelers beat Seattle in the Super Bowl. My drummer in my band talked me into playing a fantasy football league. And it just, you wouldn't know it from the show, but I actually do know a bit about football. um, and so you'd think I'd do very well at fantasy football, but it's counterintuitive for me because if you have to pick a defense, and the Baltimore Ravens defense is the best defense on the board, my head's going to explode. I can't. I'm like, the logical side says pick the Ravens defense. The
Mhm.
Pittsburgh Steelers fan in me says, "How no am I going to root for that defense?" you know, no way I could do it. There's no way I could, like, as a Steeler, root for anything regarding the Ravens unless they're playing a team I need them to beat. That's the only reason I could do. And so, literally, by the end of the season, I traded all of the players I had picked for Steelers. So I just had Steelers on my whole team.
Maybe this
And
maybe
I do
this
feel,
season that would have worked out well.
you know what? It was, like I said, it was a year after they won the Super Bowl against Seattle. Ben got hurt in a motorcycle accident in the offseason. He had appendicitis. I don't think they made the playoffs that year, so it wasn't their best year. And I feel like fantasy football also, while it stimulates the game, it gets a lot of viewers, it makes the game more popular. I feel like it waters down the fanatic fan, the hardcore fan.
Yeah.
Because you are forced to root for other teams, and that's my problem with fantasy football. Thanks for letting me rant.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I am the exact same way with sports. I have one team now. So all right, here's the deal. I I've varied from this rule a little bit because I am currently a Wichita State Shocker, go Shocks. And
Yeah, well, that's acceptable. That's all right.
I am currently, and I might in the future root for Wichita State in basketball and maybe in baseball, but never against Oklahoma State.
Sure.
I will and and that is the one exception is Wichita State. So
I'll give you a pass on that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so that was fun. This was fun. I love dogging fantasy football because I will not get over that. 3 years in a row, my starting quarterback gets injured. 3 years in a row. I'm not going to get over that. I think it was Putin and Russia was working to try to lose me fantasy football leagues and was purposefully injuring my quarterbacks. That's the only explanation. 3 years in a row, three different quarterbacks. That's the only explanation I can come up
Yeah, man. I don't know.
So anyway, with all that, I want to first say, Mr. Putin, please don't get mad at me for that last statement if you're watching. So now I will say that's it for our show today. Once again, if you guys want to do this, $180 million in cap. Uh, Please send us your teams. We'll look at them. Um, if anybody sends their teams in, and uh, we'll even if you send them in before next week, we'll talk about the team and give you a shout out on next week's show. And if you make a better team than us, then shoot, we'll admit that. In fact, I also want you guys to comment and see who you think had the better team between us two. And
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
and
Yeah.
maybe even give a reason why, you know. Um, but yeah, that's the show. Thank you so much for watching. We'll have one more show this season. That's next week. I don't know. We'll have something fun to do if we're not bombarded with comments like we have been the past few weeks. Then we'll have something fun to do. We'll think of something creative, and like I said, next season will be all sorts of fun. So thank you so much for watching, and it's a crazy world out there. So stay safe.
Absolutely. Be safe. Thank you.